What's going on, everybody? Welcome to our USL Championship prediction episode of the Crane Kicks Lex podcast. We are down one. Jessica is, I know we got to come up with like a cool excuse for her whenever she's not here. It hasn't happened yet, so I don't
She's
know.
probably baking something.
Baking. There it is. That's the one. Why didn't I think of that? I'm slow on the draw today. Coming up with another delicious tailgating dish that we can pour like green food coloring in for Lexington Sporting Club. Everything has to be green. Be like green eggs and handbook. But yeah, with profiteroles. Anyway, we got Kyle, we got Dillon, most of the crew, 75%. We're rolling good. Feeling good. The season is upon us. This week, we're going to make our debut into the championship for real. I mean, I know we had some preseason stuff, but it's going to be real action. Man, I'm super excited. I'm very stoked. I'm kind of getting a little giddy about it. I mean, you always get a little giddy when the season's starting, but it feels really weird because of like all the unknowns that are awaiting us. But we'll kind of get into the unknowns here in a second. We got a lot to talk about. Whole lot of stuff, especially with like kit reveal and everything. But Kyle, it's been a minute. You doing all right, man? Everything good?
I'm doing great. I am excited, just like you. This is a fun time of the year. Everything is possible. Nobody's been, relegated, so to speak. Even though we don't really have relegation, nobody's, at the bottom of the table. Nobody's at the top. Everything's right in front of you. So this is a fun place to be, and I think I feel like this is the third year in a row that I've said it's a pivotal year for the club, but it seems like this is getting to a point where it's like the what the future of the club is going to look like. I think we're seeing the early stages of it now because it's the championship, USL Championship, right? Which I think was always kind of on the horizon. And League One was like the start of the club and, the first few chapters, I guess, maybe the prologue. And now we're kind of getting into the meat of the book where it's like, this is kind of where I think we're going to be longer term. Obviously, Division I soccer, remains to be seen, but yeah, I'm excited. This is kind of what it was all for.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And you said no promotion relegation, but we got to put an asterisk on that yet. Eventually, yeah, I know, and hopefully we're never on the bad end of that. I hope we can stay steady and or rise and meet the challenge. Dillon, what's up with you, man?
Nothing much. Doing pretty well. Last night went to the Jim Gaffigan show at Rupp Arena, and honestly, there were so many guys that looked like, you and I, that I honestly felt like we were just about to record a podcast there last night. Everyone was about to chime in and talk soccer. There's so many bald-headed, red-beard guys. Some with glasses, some without. Some were wearing hats. I was wearing a hat. So, just I don't know what it is. The demographic.
It's a weird crossover.
Yeah.
It is something that, like, I think the most common one is when it's like I don't know, test drive a car and then that's the only car you see on the street for, the next few weeks. Like, it does feel like I see a lot of people that look like us and more lately. I don't know if that's a good thing. Probably not. But yeah, I totally agree with what Dillon said. It's like we're kind of everywhere now. Maybe it's a fashion statement thing. We've kind of set like a
trendsetters.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, it's a lifestyle. I wonder like how many people are just out and about in Lexington that watch the pod and they're just like, whoa, it's Dillon, or oh, it's Kyle, or oh, it's Tyler. And it's just like your normal everyday bald dude with a red beard. And they're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, oh yeah, from like Lexington Sporting Club. So I'm like, what? What is that? What is a Lexington Sporting Club?
Probably happens all the time.
All the time, every day.
Yeah.
Or they just play it off and then they just steal our clout and they're like, oh yeah, that's me. And it's not them. And I don't blame them.
They're getting all the free things that we normally get.
Right. We have a lot of clout worth stealing.
Yes,
for sure.
They probably got a free new kit. They probably got like, I don't know, all kinds of goodies. I don't know. But, so speaking of new kits, we got our first edition of a Hummel kit for our USL Championship. season. There's a lot of like mixed feelings on it. I've seen some extremes like, wow, this is really, really great. I love it. I've seen some that are like, this is absolutely terrible. And I really wish we'd gone a different direction. I've seen some people that are kind of lukewarm on it. And they're like, not bad. It's okay. Before we jump into all of our predictions for the season, I mean, I feel like we have to get some takes out there. I want to start with Kyle because Kyle told us in the text that he has some like lava takes. Like it just,
I don't know about that.
it's
I don't
like
like
the
them.
Kraft mac and
I
cheese,
think,
and you eat them.
yeah, I think these are just bad kits.
Yeah.
Personally, not a fan at all. The green is wrong. The black isn't. Like they look cheap. The more and more I looked at it, like believe me, I've been on that side of it, and I think that's what people want to ask about the process. I've been on the other side of the process, and it's not easy, and you're never going to please everybody. But it seems like, could have been a little bit better. I will say, talking to some of the folks in the club, the turnaround time from signing the deal to like having to have the kit approved put everyone under the gun, so to speak. So I do think there was a good effort made in the short amount of time. And from what I gather, it's a pretty unique design, like not out of a catalog, which is, I think, what most people are always afraid of. So I will give the club credit for that. I think these are going to look terrible under the lights. I think they're going to look terrible in broadcast. They're going to look purplish, I think, because they kind of have that like thin look to them. I could be totally wrong. But we'll see very soon. But to me, they aren't, especially last year, they had the Nike Vapor kit and they had that secondary green that just popped. And it was like a pure black, and just that shock of green looked really good, really clean. I think it's really noticeable if you look when they have the socks on too. That's what I was texting you all. Like if they have black socks on and then the jersey right above it, and they are like very different, obviously different materials, socks and jerseys, duh. But the color, like to me, is where I was like, it kind of lost me. And the first thing that we all notice, I think, is that the green isn't really that close to our green, right? And so those are it was a little disappointing. Didn't have like a wow factor to me. I do think the future's bright. I love the goalkeeper kits and that like training top that the club wore at Miami, where they had the little like secondary horse like logo throughout. I think that was cool. But that's something that is pretty it's kind of a humble thing. So I know they did something with Ford Madison that looked kind of neat too. So but yeah, everything I've heard is that the away kits are going to be fire. I don't know that to be a fact, but that's my two cents. I'm usually not the negative Nancy on here, but they didn't do it for me. Dillon, how did you feel?
Yeah, I'm pretty like pretty even about it overall. Like, I wish it was something else. I feel that everyone I have talked to, especially when I was at the kit reveal event, everyone kind of had the same sentiment where it was like, yeah, it's fine, it's serviceable. I wish the green was different because the green is kind of what makes it lack. It's too dark of a green, and it's not even the green, one of the greens that we're familiar with, whether it's our dark green or our bright green. I think either or would have looked better than the green that they picked for this one. Also, there's like a diamond pattern that you can't see at all unless you like totally zoom in, and
which is a nice touch, I think. But
it's invisible.
You're not gonna be able to see it.
Count. Yeah,
personally, my take is I would prefer if maybe one of our kits didn't have something to do with like horse iconography. Like we already have so much of that baked into our like club and culture and everything, and all of our stuff, right? It would be cool to like pay more homage to other things around in Lexington. Like I know that Lexington has really beautiful cherry blossoms at the cemetery, down Leestown Road, something like based off of that. Or, the bourbon industry is obviously super big here, so I think other things that are important to Lexington besides just horses and, the stables and everything, I think that would be cool, and it would be a more interesting way to incorporate our colors into into a jersey, just something a little different. And I'm not saying we have to totally get away from horses. Obviously, that is our like mascot and symbol. I just think for like just go do something different. Be bold and don't shoot like don't don't like pinhole yourself in this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
No,
obviously a big part of the club's background, like you mentioned,
right.
with the ownership group and everything. But yeah, I agree. And then trying to do some of the marketing speak of like explaining some of the stuff. It's just like to me,
It
it
just
didn't
sounds.
quite.
No, I'm sorry I interrupted you, but you
That's
brought up
fine.
like a point that I wanted to like. It just brings up the same things that we've already talked
Right.
about. Like this is already things that the club has educated us on. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, like with the way the kit's kind of laid out, and I'm just kind of looking at some of the posts that the club put out too, because I haven't seen it in person, so like that's the other part of
Mm-hmm.
it. It's like, but I think even just looking through some of the Instagram photos, like the way the lighting hits it makes it almost look like a different color every single time. So that's where I'm
Yeah.
just like, it's not that pure black. But I will say, like,
Mm-hmm.
this just kind of goes back to, I mean, I think our crest is awesome, and the crest pops on like that dark background no matter what. So like I think that part looks good. But a lot of it to me is just kind of fell a little bit flat.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dylan. Like sometimes it feels like maybe we could kind of branch out with our kit themes, even if it's like in a third kit. I wouldn't hate that. It wouldn't really get away from the horse theme, but I'd love a Thoroughblades colored kit, like from that. Oh, dude, that'd be so cool. But that's neither here nor there. I agree with you guys on a lot of these things. I'm very lukewarm on it. I don't think it's like a horrible first kit from a new vendor. I don't think it's a great one either, for all the reasons that you guys listed. Like all the faults are absolutely there. I think I would feel a lot better about it if the green was different. That to me is like my number one issue is the green is just it's all wrong. And then, like you said, Dylan, the diamond pattern, it gets hidden. Like I didn't even know that diamond pattern was there. I looked at like 15 different pictures and then finally I saw it and I was like, wait a second, what is that? And it's like there's a way to make that stuff there. And I will say to their credit, I think that they did a pretty good job of, we've had kits with the stripe down the middle because that's what the Nike Vapors allow for. And we're always like, it's a horse racing track. And it's like, it's a strip
Mhm.
down the middle. This at
Yeah,
least feels more like that is a horse racing track going,
true.
with the curvature. And so I do appreciate the effort with that type of thing and the diamonds. It's just like the execution was all a miss. It's like they had the idea, but they couldn't make it come to life in the way that made you be like, whoa, okay, yeah, that's a kit. And I think I was also a little underwhelmed too, because this is our third black kit. And I like black kind of being like our primary base if we use our bright green as the
Right.
accent. Otherwise, I actually was kind of hoping we return to a green kit. You
I
know,
1,000% agree with you.
yeah,
Why are we so adverse to our green?
I don't know, and I understand they may not have wanted to try and go for like the super bright green as the primary because it's kind of like whoa, it's in your face and it can be a lot. But I think we could have gone for one of our secondary greens, one of the darker ones that's not too dark, maybe not quite as dark as our very first kit ever. Which I mean, I like that one fine, but try and branch out in a way that it's like an appealing green, but that showcases it as its primary. And I don't know. That's kind of what I was hoping for. So whenever I saw another black kit, I was like, I like black kits, but again, like Kyle said, it's not like a true black. It doesn't feel like a true deep black. It
Right.
feels kind of like washed out, which takes away from like the effect.
And I
So
wonder
I lo-
too, given the short time frame, what green was available in stock, because you don't just need the 30 kits for the team. Like if you want to sell these things, you have to be able to order these in bulk. So like what
yeah.
base color green was available. And that's where
Mhm.
like I joked, with some of the ownership or really early on too, like when we were going through a lot of this, it's really, 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 really hard for vendors sometimes to match these unique colors.
Yeah.
And unless you're like one of the richest clubs in the world that can like pay to have their own specific color manufactured depending on what the material is. Like even Nike, you could have, I mean, we saw it in our merchandise. You could have like 6 different greens that are supposed to be the same, right? Like this
Mhm.
hoodie could be different from something else that's supposed to be this dark green. Anyway, like, but to me, it was just like the stock green color may not have even been like something that was in our spectrum at all. And I always just joked with them like if I was starting a club, I would just be like black and white because every vendor can do black and white.
Yeah.
Not very exciting,
The
but
Dalmatians.
yeah, we're just everything's black and white. Because you would think green would be something that is relatively common. But I'm also curious to
Yeah.
see what the name and numbers on the back, what color will they be?
Yeah, that's true.
Has anyone seen a kit with a print? So
No.
I wonder if there's enough contrast between the black and green because it doesn't look like there would be, like from a stat perspective and like
Mhm.
broadcast perspective. I don't know if they can get away with having that green be the name and number. So is it going to be like white?
Yeah. That
I don't,
it feels like that'd be my guess. Like I don't know what else you could go with
I
Right.
don't
unless they decided to bright
remember.
green.
I think
Yeah.
it's the dark green because at the kit reveal, all the players were there and they were wearing their kits. I'm pretty
The kit
sure.
with their like name and all that. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't really like. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember seeing their backs at all and like
Yeah.
seeing their
Mm,
numbers on it. So like,
yeah.
so
I'm just wondering like because there's certain standards with having contrast so that for scouting and all this like whatever like you have to be able to read the name and number or the number at least but
You don't want to do that Richmond kit that's white with the silver numbers that you couldn't see on TV, like at all.
former SID and me I'd call the NCAA on them.
Yeah, like to report a crime.
Yeah, I looked at a report. This is basically a felony.
Yeah, a bunch of kangaroos jumping around with unreadable numbers. Yeah, I don't know. Like if you guys had to give it like a number out of 10, what would you go with?
5.
5?
2.5.
Yeah, I think I agree with Dylan. I'd probably give it like a 5. I think I'd give it a 5 on this.
Personally, the green like the Kyle is wearing, I feel like that should just be like our
Yeah.
base color.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's solid.
agree. It should be that, and then like I would be okay with alternating years. You know what I mean? Like every other year we get that black kit with the bright green and a cool
Yeah.
design, and they switch it up. And then the year after, we go back to one of our other greens as a primary, like what Kyle's wearing or something. Because I love a black kit. I don't know. Yeah, it was kind of risky. It felt like maybe in their brain, maybe it was safe, but it felt a little risky to go up against last year's black kit with that green pop. So I don't know. Is what it is. We got, like Kyle said, supposedly a fire away kit heading our way. Everybody's been saying it's going to be amazing. So I don't know. I'm kind of holding out for that one before I go ahead and start buying another kit. I've got too many as it is, so I probably need to slow down. But this might be an away kit that I'm holding out for, and maybe I'll cop it. I don't know. Give them another shot. First go around. There's room for improvement, and I'm sure it'll happen. All right. Now, Kyle, myself, we couldn't make it to the Pittsburgh game where we got a first look at the team. Kyle wasn't in town. I was off coaching my own preseason game, which we won 4-0. What? But anyway, so Dillon and Jessica were there. Jessica's not with us. So, Dillon, we're relying on you. It's your time. It's come. It's your time to shine, dude. Hit us with like your just general impressions of what you saw from the match.
I think what I saw was a very, very safe game. It overall wasn't very exciting. There wasn't too many like scoring chances either way. It really just felt like a lot of teams were just holding possession and going back and forth and passing the ball and playing a very safe game. When I sat with Jessica and her family Saturday at the Super League game, and I was like, I thought it was pretty boring overall. Like just being there and nothing really happened. Occasionally, you would see Marcus Epps throwing a cross, but that was like few and far between. And, Jessica aptly said it was probably just them being safe overall and, not giving too much away and
Yeah.
not risking too much. And then I don't think the starting lineup that was in the game would be like our normal starting lineup. There was also like a trialist there. He was number 55. I don't know if anyone was able to figure out who he was, but I think they were trying to, get him some chances as well and see what he could do. But I do think later in the game they subbed in some players, and I do feel like that was probably more closely what our starting 11 would probably be, So I really don't feel like I just know kind of where people are going to be on the field. I don't really know in terms of like quality what they're going to be. I saw some really good defensive efforts from Speedy. I thought like having him as our defensive midfielder is going to be like insanely useful. He's going to clean up so many messes in the midfield. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
There were there were moments when our back line looked like really awesome and they were really quick on the ball, but then there were moments where they were just kind of like kicking it and not getting the ball out, and they were just even our keeper just was kind of standing there, and I was like, this is good that this is a preseason thing because this would not be good in the regular season matches if everyone was just kind of standing there and figuring out what to do. So
Yeah.
I feel like there was it was definitely an unfinished product and not not at all what we are going to see on Saturday. I feel like everyone kind of played maybe like their 60% best, not
Yeah.
trying to play full intensity and risk any injuries.
That makes sense, because these types of events, you think with it being right on the cusp of the season, you don't want to risk, like you said, any type of injury happening. And it's almost like a chance to just put on a little showcase for all the fans to just see each player, just see them on the field and just be like, hey, here they are. Here's, a little bit of what they can do. And kind of like an appetizer almost. So that's kind of what I was wondering. I was wondering if we'd see a little bit more of that kind of like safe play. They're going to put in some effort, but nobody's going to go crazy and go 90 miles an hour because you want to save that for the actual games that matter and that count. And these are just really your warm up sets, right? It's not time to load the bar up. It's just trying to get warmed up, ready to go. Get everybody a few reps here and there, feeling good, especially against another championship team. So that doesn't surprise me too much to hear, and especially with it being Pittsburgh. Bob Lilly, very well known for playing defensive, careful ball. So kind of was wondering if that would be a little bit more of like a defensive stalwart battle between the two. But I mean, it's cool that you got to look at all the players and kind of got a feel for what each of them brings. At least all the ones that featured. I'm super excited to see them in action for real. I'd like to think that it's going to be pretty electric whenever we go up against Hartford here really soon. So I don't know. Time will tell. So we got some predictions that we need to make. Dillon's got a little bit of an edge on me and Kyle, where he got to see the team in action, even if it was kind of like just a little showcase style. But we're going to do some predictions for the starting lineup, and then as well as results for all the different competitions we're going to be involved in, to try and kind of prognosticate what's going to go down this season. I like that vocab word. It's good. I like using that one. It sounds fancy. Why don't we do this? Why don't we start with what we think would be the main starting 11? Not necessarily just for like Hartford, but in general. Like, what do we kind of predict as being like, all right, that's the starting 11 we more often than not expect to see. Right? Does somebody feel like going first?
I'll go first.
Dillon, all right.
So, kind of going off what you just said, the general lineup of what we feel. I don't know. Like, I thought there was a rumor that Burke might not be ready to start the season. I think I think John said that the owner told him that Burke wouldn't be ready to start the season. So I did not have him as my starting striker in this for that reason specifically.
Would you assume he's the starter though? If you
Yes, I would.
Okay,
Yes.
you can go with that. That's totally fine. It's up to you, man. Where you
All
go
right.
with. It's your choice.
Well, then I'll go with Burke as our starting striker, and then this is a 3-4-3 formation.
Okay.
I'll start with that, and I'll go from keeper up. Except you already know that Burke is the striker because I'm a silly goose and I went that way. So I think Ketter will probably be the starting keeper. Personally, I would like to see Brooks starting. I just think he's got a really high ceiling, but I think from what I saw, Ketter will be the starter, and then the back line will be a back three of Barber, Burks, and Hafferty. And then in the midfield, there will be 4 midfield, but the 2 on the ends are going to be more like wing backs, and they're going to be extremely versatile, moving up and down. I think the left wing back is going to be Goldthorpe. He's going to primarily play like a more attacking role than a defensive role. And then Sophie and Speedy are going to be our like midfield duo, kind of defensive midfielder, the holding. And then Stauffer on the right side. I think he'll kind of invert, come in more inside, as opposed to Goldthorpe, who I think will stay more wide. But I do think Stauffer would come back and play some more defense if need be. And then I have Firmino and Epps above that midfield line. Epps is more of a winger. He's going to play more of a wide position, whereas Firmino's going to tuck more inside and let Goldthorpe become that winger. And Firmino's going to play like more of a second striker underneath of Lancaster or Burke in this case. So. That is my lineup.
We had a lot of similarities.
I anticipate that we would.
Kyle, what are you thinking, man? I know you had a couple of different iterations. He's over here being beautiful mind about it all.
Well, without having any eyes on the club, just kind of going through some of the names, some of the positions, some of the history, some of these where these guys have played. It just seems like, I know we talked about this on a pod even before the full team was announced, that it was a team that was just loaded with like players that play on the right side of the pitch, and you're like, okay, well, we need, but I also think that at this level and with a lot of these players, you'll see some like positional diversity, which is a very common theme, not only in our last couple teams, but just I think at this level, it's just something that players got to be able to move around. So I kind of have a 3-4-2-1 type of approach. I have Thompson. I did put Thompson as starter. I put the back three of Barber and Burks, and I put Hafferty on the back line, only because I was concerned with who I was going to put on the left wing, and I actually put Stauffer. Is it Stauffer or Stouffer over there?
Stauffer.
As a player who has played on the left side before. So going across the formation, it's I have Stauffer, then Sophie, then Speedy, and then Epps. And Epps obviously I think can play forward, has some experience playing right back, and I think could just be one of those players that's all over the pitch. And so in a similar fashion to Dillon's lineup, I could envision Stauffer and even Epps dropping back, or the formation shifting and just Stauffer dropping back with a back four. I do think Nick Firmino is going to be a fantastic player, so I put him in attacking midfield. I also had Alfredo as an attacking midfielder. I put Burke up top as well. I do think that other attacking midfield position is one that's going to be really interesting. Obviously, the fans are familiar with Yannick in his game. I put Alfredo up there because I think he's a player that the coaching staff is really high on. I don't know if he's quite there yet, with them, but
Mhm.
you also have other players that I think that could fill in. My guy Braudilio Rodriguez is one that I considered, and Milo Yosef as well, but I ended up just using um, Alfredo, and yeah, that was the starting 11. And I did put Burke up top as well. He's a player that likely is looking at probably 60 to 70 minutes a match anyway. But
Yeah.
you know, I just went ahead and put him up there.
I love that you were like listing like a couple players for each thing because it's hard. I was looking at this
So
and I was
hard.
like,
It's really difficult.
yeah. The only spots that I felt really, really confident were like the back three, like the center back trio. Like that, I was like, I feel like that's pretty much a lock. But every other position, I'm like, I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm being silly about some of these. There are a couple that I felt pretty confident on, but there are a lot that I was like, this is probably not going to go the way that I think it is. But it's just so hard to tell. And I feel like we got so many different players, lots of reps in preseason, and did a lot of mixing and matching and whatever the ingredients come out to bake. I don't know what that's going to be, but I gave it a shot. So for my goalkeeper, I went with Ketterer. My back three, going from left to right, I went with Barber, Burks, and Hafferty. And then I had two wing backs. So my left wing back, I went with Sargent, actually. Just watching him play, I really like his aggression and the way he gets up into the attack. And I think he has really good track back skills. My right wing back, I went with Stauffer because, like you guys kind of mentioned, I kind of imagine him often dropping back into the back line when necessary to make a back four, but also being really, really good about kind of holding that midfield position. And I had two central midfielders. I went with the combo of Firmino and Williams. So I got Nick and Speedy as a combo in the central midfield. Then for my left wing, I went with Goldthorpe, right wing, Epps, and then my striker, I went with Burks. So I think Burke, if it is like Dillon said, and he's not quite where he needs to be able to kind of hit the ground running for the beginning of the season, I think eventually he will. And I think there's, it's kind of hard to ignore somebody that's had as much MLS experience, recent MLS experience as he had, and not want him out there in that striker role. So very similar lineup as far as formation is concerned, and I know we had a couple of changes between each other, but that's kind of what I'm going with. I feel really good about. I mean, a lot of different players though. I could confidently switch out these players with somebody else that we have on the roster and not really feel like worried that there's a big dip. Um, so I don't know. I think we had a lot of crossover on this.
The left wing back, left back, like that whole
Yeah,
position is the one that, because I agree. I mean,
yeah,
Sargent is one that you could see just naturally playing that position, but I wasn't sure how. Like, just looking at the roster and then positions that most of these players have played, there was an obvious gap there. So it'll be
yeah.
interesting to see. But I think the general idea that we've all kind of presented of in possession, it's three back. Out of possession, it could be as many as five dropping back. So it's just a matter of who those players are.
In the preseason game, Sargent did he started and he played where I had Goldthorpe in that like left wing back position.
Mhm. Yeah.
And there were times where it was a flat four and he was the left back. And there were times when like Hafferty was really wide and he was almost playing right back, and that led who I the trialist really threw my like predictions off because of like where
Mhm.
he was on the field. But I feel like Stauffer and Hafferty are gonna like kind of interchange a little bit, and I just know that a lot of these guys are just so versatile that
Yeah.
I think one week we might just see the we might just see it on the other side of the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. And it kind of, reminds me of year one, how we would see like Nico and Tate, switch sides or, like there's a lot of just flip flopping, try and throw off the opponents and kind of work some new magic. So, yeah, that it definitely in my mind, the outside is where all the question marks are for me. And I'm like, who's going to be there? Who's going to fill those spots? And what's it going to look like? I felt a lot more confident with the middle whenever I was constructing this and who I was putting where. Speedy Williams, you kind of feel like that's a must start. Burke, you feel like is a must start. Back three, we've seen pretty consistent, and you assume there's likelihood that that's going to be the back three. The outside will be kind of like my nice surprise though. See who does what, and it is really, really encouraging that we have a decent amount of options. As far as players that can kind of be pushed out wide and fill those positions, and see if we can get a right combo that'll like lead to some goals, or stopping them even. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what's up. I'm very, very excited to see what's going down with that. So with this projected starting 11 in mind, let's kind of move on to what is the match that you guys have marked on your calendar that you're feeling like, all right, that's the one that I feel like is kind of a big deal for us this season. For me, this might be like a random take. I feel because there's a lot of ones that I feel like you could go and say, all right, that one right there, that's gonna have lots of eyes on it, and that should be the one. Mine is really simple. It's just our home opener. It's our home opener. I feel like just getting off on the right foot against Hartford for our very first match in the championship is going to be a big deal. I feel like I'm a big proponent. A lot of coaches are like, "Oh yeah, it's you got to get hot at the right time," and maybe that happens later in the season. True. I just want us to come out of the gate hot. I want to see us actually show that we are competitive at a championship level. And I know Hartford kind of sways back and forth in the standings year after year, but still they're a championship team. And I think that we need to show that we can hang with the big dogs in this level. And doing that sooner rather than later is going to be pretty important, I think. And again, winning games, getting points doesn't always automatically translate to attendance, but I think it's going to be very important that we kind of kick things off right to hopefully start gaining momentum as we go into the nicer weather months. If we get into the nice weather months with a good winning record, I think more eyes will be on us and those stands will be packed, and then it'll be a lot easier for our guys to get inspired game after game. So that's the one I ended up choosing. What about you, Kyle? Dillon, either one?
Yeah, this was kind of a interesting question. I think the first one I think everyone's just going to circle automatically is away at Louisville City, right? But
Yeah,
obviously a little bit of the the kind of anticipation on that is gone because we got to face them in the Open Cup a couple years ago. So there's not that like novelty to it. I do still think it'll be a pretty important match, at least for like local fans and the regional,
yeah,
landscape, I guess, of soccer. But it's just such a tough schedule. And I know we've talked about it. We've talked about the Western Conference thing. It's just like looking at the travel is just absolutely bonkers. And so I look at some of these matches that like if it's a home match that maybe precedes a stretch of away matches, like when you look at against switchbacks in late June, and then you're four in a row on the road, Phoenix, Miami, Sacramento, back to Colorado, like bouncing around like that. To me, it's like taking care of the home turf is like super important in those type of matches. And so I do think it's very beneficial that in the league, at least, you're starting 3 out of 4 at home. And so you can hopefully get a good stretch like out of the gate. And yeah, I mean, not only Hartford, but Indy 11 and San Antonio. I just think those first 3 home matches are going to be important. And then I always look at your home match right before a long road trip as a way to kind of set the tone and, leave on a good note and then, try to get some results on the road, because obviously historically this isn't a club that's been fantastic wearing the white kits on the road, but completely new team and everything else. So hopefully that doesn't come back to haunt them. But yeah, I like the fact that the club gets to get out of the gate with some early home matches, including the Open Cup.
yeah. That'll be a good warm-up match too. Obviously when you want to take them, seriously and try and make a deep run, but it's also sometimes nice to have those matches outside of regular league play to kind of maybe let some other guys spread their wings, and especially in our team where I feel like we're really deep right now. I think it'll be really important for us. Dylan, what match are you looking at, man?
I think you made a lot of great points for like why the first match is so important. And I agree with a lot of that same sentiment. Gotta put something out there so people can get excited and have some momentum going forward. And I do think one of the earlier matches, the Saturday match against Indy 11 at home, to me, that's
Mm-hmm.
it's early enough, like you said, and it's against a good opponent, someone who is like well renowned within the league, like a decently run organization. Um, so
And they're
I
going to
just think
travel
it's
well
a
too, probably.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's a good opponent, and it's kind of like, oh, you're going up against titans of the league, so to speak, and it's going to be one where we have to show up for if we want to be taken seriously. This is like the if we want to be taken like a serious opponent in the league itself, this is the one to show up for. It doesn't necessarily have to be a win, but at least a draw against a good opponent like them is going to kind of send notice to the league that we're for real.
Yeah. All that being said, beat Lou City, especially since it'll be on national television, which if people haven't seen, we got two nationally televised matches. What is it, June 20th and September 28th? So one's against Lou City and the other one's New Mexico United. So we gotta definitely show out. Those are two tough opponents. We got tough matches for ourselves. So thinking beyond just like a single match, we talked about these stretches. Kyle mentioned we leave, we go traveling all over the place. It is tough being in the West. We kind of got the short straw this season by being shoved into the West. And they're like, it'd be really cool for you guys if you did not travel regularly to Indianapolis, but instead you went all the way to New Mexico. So it's going to be challenging for us. And we still have East Coast teams that we're facing in the midst of it all. This is probably not going to be the easiest season just because of that. Travel is tough. Us having so many guys that are seemingly reliable and so much depth from what it appears, I think that that's going to play a big role in this all and hopefully maybe kind of ease some of the pressure. So that way we don't have to rely on the same 11 guys every single match just to get a result. Maybe we can still translate with who we work in. Thinking of all things considered, us being in the Western Conference, all the travel, this being our first year in the championship, us being essentially a whole new team, minus a couple people, what are we thinking for our league finish? Not Jaeger Cup. We're not worried about Lamar Hunt's Open Cup just yet. We'll get to those. But just for the league game, we got 30 games this season. 8 teams get in for the West. 8 teams get in for the East to the playoffs. Where are we going to be at? We making the playoffs? We missing them?
So, obviously there's a lot of turnover for a lot of teams in the league. So even if, you can look at standings from last year and it's not always going to be, a carbon copy, as we know. That said, there are, like Dillon mentioned, some of the teams that are just really well established. Indy 11 tends to always be a fantastic team. Obviously, Louisville City's one as well. It seems like there are fewer of those teams in the West in terms of like established. Now I know Switchbacks, obviously, reigning champs, and Sacramento's had a fantastic team. In years past, San Antonio maybe not great last year, but is always kind of in the mix. So, but it feels like the Western Conference maybe isn't quite as deep, which could help us. But at the same time, I've predicted things on here that were wildly inaccurate before, and so I'm going to just say I think we could be pushing for a playoff berth, but I would not be surprised if we finish, in the 9, 10, 11 range. given it's our first year and all the things you mentioned with the travel, et cetera. So I don't think we'll be out of it until late in the season if we are out of it. I hope we're end up being a playoff team, but I would put us right on the cusp right now.
Okay. All right, Dillon, where we're going to be at, man.
Oh, man, it's just so hard for me to say. And I don't want to be negative because I'm always the negative guy. A lot of people have us doing very well, and
Yeah.
like, do we fall into the same trap that we fell into last year, where everyone thinks we're going to win the league and everything, and then we are not at all close to doing that? I don't know. I think we could make the playoffs. It'll probably be like the 7 or 8 spot. I just think that the travel is going to be a really big factor on the team and in getting consistent results.
Okay.
I think we're going to have to really try to maximize efficiency just at home alone. And then maybe like our away games are the ones we kind of, shoot for draws and, because it's going to be really hard in those long stretches when we're really far away from home, those games that kick off at 11 o'clock when,
Yeah.
how are, it's going to
Jeez.
be hard for me to be watching it, let alone those guys are, who are traveling and playing in that game.
Jet lagged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time changes and all that. Oh, being away from
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
I think I just disrupted everything by I think Dillon thought I was going to come off the top rope with like first or second seed and he was going to bring us back down to earth. But then I started with, I don't know, might not make it. And then now
Is this a
Dillon
heel
doesn't know
turn?
what to do.
Yeah.
Maybe.
This big time.
I
heel
hear those
turn.
are going around now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what I hear. It's like a big crossover between wrestling fans and soccer fans.
It's what the scuttlebutt
Like half the time I
is.
see people talking about the WWE stuff and like John Cena's evil now. And I'm like, what? I didn't know he was not. Anyway, but Dylan, you talk about not falling into the trap. This is me. I'm falling into the trap. Not that deep though. Okay. I really in my heart of hearts want to believe that we're gonna like sweep the league. We're just gonna crush it. We're gonna do everything. I do think that we'll do well. I don't think that it'll be like another ninth place finish like we've experienced year in and year out. I think that 5 or 6 is what I feel comfortable with in the West. I feel like we're going to be 5 or 6, gets us into the playoffs. I think that we could have a shot at least advancing through the first round of the playoffs before maybe we get knocked out. But again, I've not gotten to see the team in action in person. So that's why these predictions are fun. We can look back at it later and be like, man, that was so dumb. It's always the best. Dylan likes doing that. He's like, hey, Tyler, you remember that time you predicted that thing was wrong? We
I
had
do that
zero
all the
information.
time.
You didn't have any information to make that prediction and it was wrong. Yeah, he'll do that to me to keep me grounded. But
hey, if you come here for like correct takes,
yeah,
don't,
yeah, just vibes. That's all
just
we
don't.
offer. We just offer
Simply
vibes.
don't do that.
Good, bad, or in between. But I think that playoffs are not a foregone conclusion, and I know like Kyle joked about jinxing it by saying, the West is the weaker of the two divisions. I mean, you look at the standings year after year, it takes a lot fewer points to get into the playoffs in the West historically than it does the East. So the West, I mean, by all accounts, I mean, granted, this is a different season, different people, different players. I get that. But history tells us that it's a little bit easier to squeak into the playoffs being in the Western Conference. So that is one bit of a gift that I guess we did get out of getting put in the Western Conference, aside from all the other bad stuff. That is the shining bright spot. So I feel okay about us doing well this season. I think this will be a winning season overall. And I think that this will be a good season for us to be like, okay, we can take a little bit of a breath. We're not going to be the butt of a joke for a third year in a row. I just feel like the league has been brutal to us. Constantly being like, you guys barely scrape by. And, a lot of heartbreak. I think that maybe we break that. We kind of get out of that cycle and move forward. So I'm going to be optimistic. Let's talk about Jaeger Cup now. So Jaeger Cup is now expanded to the championship as well. We got championship and we've got USL 1. So unlike other championship teams, we got a little bit of a taste of it last year. We know kind of the vibe of it all, what it looks like, kind of how it operates. So now that it's been expanded, there are 6 different groups. And so each group, you have a winner of that group that goes on to the knockout stages. But then now instead of one team that scored the most goals, like last year, it's 2 teams that scored the most goals out of the entire competition that move on. So 8 teams total get out of the group stage and go to the knockout rounds. So that's kind of what we're looking like this year for the Jaeger Cup. So thinking about our groups and kind of the nature of the beast, last year we did really good in the Jaeger Cup, actually. We did solid. It was actually for a good portion of our season, our bright spot. We'd get on the pod and we'd be like, hey, you want to talk about league play? No, not really. Let's talk about Jaeger Cup play, because it was just kind of like our weird thing that we could manage to do good mysteriously. It was kind of strange, right?
Yeah. And for the listeners who don't remember, remind us who is in our group.
Oh, I got to pull it up. We got Richmond. I know that much because we're facing off against them.
I'll do it. I'm prepared. We have Charlotte Independence and Richmond from some old friends, North Carolina as well, and CFC, some old friends. And then it's us, Loudoun, and Lou City.
There we go.
I think we can make some noise. Do you remember like a couple years ago when we talked about some like who we thought could be our rivals in the future? And I said, don't count out NCFC, even though they were making the move. That could still be on the table. Putting us in the West made things a little bit different, but for a moment there, I thought I was a genius. But we do get a chance to meet up again with NCFC and some of our old friends from League One. So I think it's a group we can make some noise in.
I'm actually excited to face off against Richmond again. They gave us so much crap at the end of last season because we were fighting to stay alive, and they were like, you didn't make the playoffs. And I'm like, you barely made the playoffs. Like it was by the skin of your teeth. Like, come on now. And they were acting like they were like number 1 in the league or something. But so I'm a little excited to get a rematch with them after all that razzing that they did. But I think that, the Jaeger Cup with the groups the way they are and who's in it, I tend to agree that I think we can make some noise and we can do some damage. I don't know. I kind of have it in my mind that I think that we will pass through the group stage. I think we'll get out of the group stage. I haven't quite decided if I feel like we're going to win outright or if we're going to get out on goals. That was something I'm a little undecided about. But I think getting out of the group stage is on the table for me. I think maybe up to quarterfinals, I feel like is maybe where I'm kind of like settled, where my gut tells me that we might find ourselves is quarterfinals at least after getting out of the group stage. So I think that's a pretty respectable run considering that it's expanded and included so many more teams. So I don't know, like how deep you think we're going?
I agree. I think that's a good potential stop for us. And I think that the group, like Kyle said, offers a more favorable outcome for us, I believe, at least with our opponents.
Especially with like the crazy rules, right? Because we can't forget that there's like the whole like you don't draw, you go to PKs, you try and get that extra little point. And I think that makes a really, really big difference for a lot of teams. And I think we in the past have been one of those teams. Now we're different looking this year, but I think it still plays a big factor, and I think it can be beneficial for us. So I think just the zaniness of the Jaeger Cup plus who we're up against, it feels all right.
I think, like you were saying, it's just it's random, like let it be crazy. Like weird things would happen for us in a positive way, whether it went to the PKs at the end and we won, or we had like didn't we have a comeback win against Chattanooga, I think, or something like that. It was Memorial Day weekend, right? That one. I don't know if it was Chattanooga. It was a red team for sure. But anyway,
One of those red teams out
so
there.
so yeah, we just keep Jaeger weird, throw in the not normal lineup, let crazy things happen. I think it's more fun that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just one of those weird, unique competitions, and it's not insane, but it still has its little quirks that make it kind of fun and unique, and throw a little bit of a wrinkle in what you would normally expect from a competition because the rules made up, they don't matter. But it is what it is. So Jaeger Cup
It's like who's
going
line?
good. It is. Yeah. Look, I knew somebody'd catch that. Kyle, you thinking what quarterfinals? Less, more?
I don't know. I feel like that's a good. I do think we'll get out of the group stage. It's just I feel like when you're talking soccer, or really a lot of sports, it's like once you're out into a knockout stage, like almost
Mhm.
anything can happen. So it's hard to
Yeah.
really predict, the final form, and it's also hard to predict, how much other teams like if the team is putting more emphasis on Jaeger Cup or not. Last year, it didn't seem like there was much of a difference in philosophy or tactics
Mhm.
or anything. But last year we also dealt with more injury issues, so maybe the roster wasn't quite as deep. So I don't know. It's really hard to say. Not only how Lexington will handle the Jaeger Cup. If it's like last year, it'll just be kind of business as usual. But then
Mhm.
also the other opponents too, how they're handling it. Um, but yeah, I think I think getting out of the group stage would be a big win for the club.
All right. All right. Now let's do Open Cup. Let's do that one. That one's coming up quick. I'm actually like really excited that we're playing Southern Indiana, and as far as I know, Diallo's still on the team. So if you're a relatively new fan, Diallo Irakoze was on the team. He was from Lexington. He was on the team year one. Now he plays for Southern Indiana, and he does really good up there from everything I've seen. So I think that'll be kind of cool if we face off against him. Open Cup, we're going in round one against amateur teams. Amateur teams are in the mix. We're in there because we fell into that like bottom half of the championship that had to enter in the first round instead of a later round. Lots of teams end up joining in, goes in stages and waves. I feel like Open Cup, everybody really likes it, that likes it, and then a lot of people are confused by it that have not had a lot of experience because there's so many teams. It's such a big, wide open competition, which in its own way, kind of like the Jaeger Cup, it makes it kind of like one of those zany, cool competitions. You might see an amateur team all of a sudden just show up and take on another team. Like was the burrito team like literally like wasn't it a
Yeah,
burrito shop that took on Fuego?
yeah,
Then they beat
yeah.
them.
I think they won. Yeah, they did. They won
El
some matches,
Frito, is that right? I think that's the name of
something
the team.
like that.
Yeah, I don't know,
Um,
but it's just cool random storylines like that. You're like, what the heck? Where did this even come from? So,
or the
um,
storyline of Vermont Green.
oh no, you had to say it. I was trying to dance around it. I was trying to make fun of Fuego for like the whole burrito shop team beating them instead, which you know
How
now
could
we're
I
back
not
to
bring up
Vermont.
the thing that you guys caused?
It's true. I
I
did.
wasn't there. I got 0 minutes.
I I was there. It was me.
I
They put
was
me in a
yelling.
Vermont
I
kit.
was telling them to mark the back post, and nobody listened. Like 3 times in a row.
It's true.
They
It's true.
stopped
I
and
heard it.
went to go get Ben and Jerry's. That's why they weren't covering.
That's what it was.
It could be interesting. We already mentioned the home opener. So there are 2 league matches before Open Cup begins. It'll be interesting to see the result of
Mhm.
those 2
What a
matches,
format.
how that dictates,
Yes.
yeah, what the form's like heading into that one.
Right.
So
100%
that
agree.
that's just one of those. I mean, fortunately, back home in the weekend, that's the Indy 11 match, so it's not like a midweek and then traveling, but um, it does start to stack up.
Mhm. It's true. And, I don't really know what Southern Indiana is going to look like for sure because I've noticed they've been signing some new players. So I don't really know how that's going to translate and what we're going to look like competition wise. Because, of course, our U20 team, UPSL squad, they played Southern Indiana not long ago, actually. But a lot of changeover since then. So I don't know. maybe they'll be settled by the time we play. Maybe they won't. Maybe they got some crazy players. Maybe they don't. Kind of like how Vermont signed all those people last minute right before we played them. They're like, guess what? We signed like 5 former pros, and it was what it was.
Can I get a prediction from you guys on this one? Are we going to win this one?
7-0.
Oh yeah.
Tuddy?
A million.
Another Tuddy?
A billion.
I think this is a 4-0 victory. You cannot. There's 2 things you really can't like fake when you're like, you can't fake desperation, right? Like if you're a team in the NBA finals and you're up 2-0, the team that's down 0-2 is more desperate than you. You can't do anything about it. And so you can't fight that, right? And then the other thing is too, when the team has nothing to lose in terms of like a talent discrepancy, there's nothing you can do about it. Like they're just going to fight harder. You see that all the time in March Madness. Good time of year to bring that up, right? Like there's just things that, theoretically you're more talented and better coached and this and that, but there's just things you can't overcome sometimes in sports, and you have to, you just can't overlook some of these opponents. And that's happened before with this club. It's happened with a lot of clubs. I mean, and it's actually kind of what makes these Open Cups fun, right? Like look at the FA Cup across the pond. Like there's some fantastic teams left in the quarterfinals, that maybe people didn't think would be there. So it could be exciting.
I 100% agree. I love it. I love like the drama of it and the potential. And, we've been on the wrong side of it for 2 years, but I think this year I feel there's potential to go a little bit further. So my prediction for it is I think we at least get into the round of 32. I think we're at least that far. So that's when MLS enters. MLS, 16 MLS teams end up joining the competition at the round of 32. So high potential that we end up facing an MLS squad. And then it's a big question mark for me, right? Because we had that draw with Inter Miami, we got Messi and crew, but then we also had that whooping that we took from Nashville, which all preseason, all of its experimentation. But I'm not really sure where we stand on the MLS scale quite yet, just based on those 2 things, right? So I think that we at least get round of 32 and maybe end up drawing an MLS team, and then who knows? I hope that we pass that point. I hope that we show whoever that might be that we're up to the task, but that's kind of like my baseline of where we might be.
I honestly wonder how important the Open Cup is going to be for us. And like Kyle was saying, how the first 2 matches maybe in the league indicate on how we roll out into the Open Cup match. Because if we don't start out too hot, in the first 2 league games, we might approach Open Cup very differently. So I'm just not sure. I think we will at least win the first game. After that, I got nothing.
I agree. I actually I hope we're not 1 win and done, but I think, first of all, the whole like first round, second round, I have no idea what any of those mean. It's the most confusing schedule. Like
that's why I've been very vague about what I've said about the league, because it's very confusing.
It's so confusing. Like I think technically we're in the first round, but it's not actually the first round because of the 4 amateur rounds and whatever. So like depending on where you're looking, but I do think this is like the first round, right?
Yeah, and the first round that pro teams enter the fray.
Okay. I think we could, here's what I'll say. I'm with Dillon. Win 1 and let's put that in our pocket. First Open Cup victory. Fantastic.
Yes.
Good for the club. Let's see who we match up against. I'm hopeful that it either opens up some fun rematch opportunities, maybe with the USL 1, opponent, in which case we'd be real puckered up. Like, if it's 1 Knox or, I'm just thinking of, like,
don't put that out there.
I know that would suck. I mean, that would, but like, you know what I mean? You could create a storyline like that.
Yeah.
But I do think it would be super beneficial to get to the round of 32 just from like a brand recognition not only within like the soccer landscape, I'm not even worried about that as much as like our own fan base. Like if, you know, if it's like an FC Cincinnati or like a national, and I don't even know the 16 teams that are in it. You mentioned, because I know half of them aren't. They're in the Champions, whatever, CONCACAF, whatever.
The other made up competition.
Yeah, just getting, even if it's a road match like away, I think would just be a big boost to the club in general. And so my prediction is that we get one victory and then, you know, see where it goes from there. But I would say the added benefit of progressing on would not even just for this one season and this one team, would just be the added benefit of our brand recognition, you know, out into the soccer world, and then getting a good named opponent for our fans.
Yeah, that'd be really awesome. That's why, like, my hope. That's why I put my baseline at like 32. I think it'd be really great to have an MLS team go against us and it not be preseason and hidden away, and then you just kind of see a couple pictures and that's it. I I'm really hopeful that we get that far because I want us to be on some sort of televised platform, whatever it is this year. I know it's kind of fluctuated back and forth between a variety of things, but you know, it once MLS is involved, you know there's going to be way more exposure, there's going to be way more access, and you know going against one of those teams I think would be pretty big. You know, it's just like Omaha when they traveled to Kansas City and played them. You know, they were riding that high for what felt like forever. Like all their fans that traveled made it their, you know, profile picture and everything. So I think that would be really cool to at least shoot for getting that far, if only for, like you said, the brand exposure and to put ourselves out there. You know, and we talked a lot about depth, and it remains to be seen. We got to be tested in actual play, not preseason play. But it feels like we've been constructed to have lots of depth, and it also seems as though we got a lot of players that don't have quite the injury history that we had last year, where it seemed like half of our roster had recently come off of a serious injury, and this year maybe we have a couple guys that had an injury in the last year or two. So it feels like we're a much healthier squad, and that's going to contribute to our depth. So I'm real curious. I'm wondering, like, what are we going to do with these competitions? Or are we going to cycle through people? Are we going to kind of give everybody their chance to shine and say, hey, we trust that this is a team that we can really put out there and win games? Are we going to stick with, you know, everybody out of the starting 11, which kind of feels unrealistic if we do make any sort of run in either competition, let alone if we're like, you know, running full steam in league play, running full steam in Jaeger Cup, running full steam in US Open Cup. It's a lot of competitions. That's a lot of wear and tear on your players. So, you know, undoubtedly we'll have to see some sort of, you know, switching of the lineup and, you know, who we're leaning upon. But I don't know. I guess if I take all of these three competitions combined, I feel hopeful that we'll make a strong showing at the least. You know, I'm not going to do my normal crazy thing and be like, we're winning the league, we're winning the cup, we're winning the other cup. I guess the Jaeger Cup's not really a cup, is it? It's like a plate. We're winning the dinnerware and a cup to go with it. But we are. But I'm also not going to go too crazy because I understand. You know, we've got a lot on our plates right now, and this is a whole new adventure for us.
I got a question for you guys. What out of those three things, these three competitions, rank them in order of your importance? I will start with Tyler because he never gets to go first.
League. I want to win the league more than any of the other ones. I guess if you're saying importance, it may be like a wider scale. In some ways, the Open Cup, because of the involvement of MLS. I guess I'm taking it in two different ways. Importance to me as far as like relevance to what's going to happen long term, as far as you know, our standing and the respect that we get out of the championship teams that we face. League matters to me, but also if I'm thinking in more of like a macro picture of like our club's success and our club's reach, Open Cup I think offers a lot more reach than even us having these national broadcast deals with the league.
Yeah, I would just say that first of all, Jaeger Cup #1, and then when I'm thinking about the other two, like I think Tyler made a good point. Like it's how do you view it on the day to day or on like the macro level, like 30,000 foot view? Because if And you also, if you're asking, you can win one of those championships, which one you pick, and I'm taking the Open Cup because the history is written and it's forever. You're the first MLS
Yeah.
team since what was it, like 97 or 98 that's won this thing.
USL.
And sorry, USL non-MLS team.
He's a
Should've-
plant. He's a mole. We've
Get 'em.
exposed him.
Get him.
Here we get him.
Oh, they're
Why
at my
is
door
that
right now.
marathons?
Why is the
He's
FBI
working with
at my
Lionel
door?
Messi.
They're at my door right now. Yeah, like that would just be forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
Would be there.
Yeah.
But I do think when you're looking at like, okay, lineups and training and injury management and like all those little tiny decisions, I think you have to prioritize the league. And so that's a very good question, Dillon. But I would go if you're telling me we're getting the title, like we're raising the trophy, I'm going Open Cup. But if you're just talking about day to day, I would go with league. How would you rank them, Dillon?
Yeah, I'd probably rank them in the same order that Tyler did, where it's, league and then Open Cup and then Jaeger. There's part of me where it's like, do I think we're going to win the league? No. Do I feel like we have a better chance of winning the Jaeger Cup than the league? I do.
Yeah.
There's
Like
just
last year.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I think it kind of does depend on the day to day. Like, hey, maybe we're not doing so hot in the league, so let's put all our eggs into Jaeger Cup and kind of go wild and get some silverware and actually, have a trophy to our name of some sort.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
So I think it just
I
depends
will
on the
also say,
situation.
related in terms of like the scheduling, it looks like most of our Jaeger Cup matches will be like weekend matches. So whereas the Open Cup is going to kind of cut into your training and wear and tear on the legs, the Jaeger Cup at least isn't your normal cycle, and it's not like we have to play a Wednesday and a Saturday and then type of thing. So it looks like they're kind of baked in to be like last year, where they're still regular weekend matches that you're not really theoretically having to go above and beyond for wear and tear. But I suppose as it gets later into the year, see where you are in the Jaeger Cup standings, maybe then you can start tinkering with some of the lineups.
Yeah, that's a fair point, because Open Cup is kind of no rules. It's any and every day. It's like, hey, guess what? You're going to play Tuesday at 10 a.m. What do you mean? So it can be a little tricky when you're planning it all out. You're trying to do this management of your team and make sure everybody's fresh and prepared and has time to prepare match per match. And it's a lot to juggle, but yeah, I think
And
I
we don't
feel
have to worry about
comfortable
it.
with that.
Knoxville's not getting past their first round anyway. So
No, they're done for. They're definitely done for. It's a lock.
they got to go on the
And
road
then
to Boone, North Carolina.
done.
Tough
That's
place
it.
to play.
It's over. So okay. Overall, seems like hopes are relatively high for the season. Tentatively, Dillon said we're winning everything. He did. He saw
You're
he
not.
said it with his eyes. He didn't say it with his voice, but his
Do
eyes
not.
told me.
No.
He did. He said everybody be on notice. Anybody, anywhere, anytime. So
Remember
all right.
that?
Yeah, I remember that. Oh, what a memory from long, long ago. Eons back. And now we're here. Look how far we've come. So we always do like end of season awards and stuff. I didn't want to get through all, you know what I mean? It's a lot to predict to try and be like, oh, this player's gonna get this, and this. But I did think, it might not be bad if we just kind of threw out our way too early predictions for MVP and Golden Boot winner for our club. Not Golden Boot necessarily for the entire league, which maybe, who knows? But just for our club, who we think is going to be that player that we feel like, man, we couldn't have done what we did without them, or that player that's just going to bag a million goals. And this is tricky, right? Because we have a lot of players that potentially could leave an impact. We know what they've done with other teams, but we've yet to really truly see it play out with our team yet in a really competitive setting. So, let's start with MVP. Who do you guys feel is going to be that player that by the time we get to the end of the season, we're all going to say, man, I am super glad that we signed him.
Probably Speedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already felt that like in the preseason game. That was my biggest takeaway was like, thank God we got that guy. If you're a Billy Madison fan, and thank God we called that guy. I really think he's going to be the MVP, whether it is more of a defensive role or whether it's him starting, some attacks. I just think overall he is going to be the ceiling raiser for the team, or he's going to be the ceiling raiser and the floor raiser as well. He's going to increase both.
Everything's going up.
Exactly. Yeah,
Dillon
that's
loves
my
him.
MVP.
Dillon loves him a good 6. A good
dude. I do
midfielder.
I do.
If you're a CDM and you're signed by our club, Dillon's already got your name tattooed on his back.
It's true. I already have a Shay tattoo and an Abel tattoo, which is kind of fitting because they're dating, and I already got a Speedy one. So
little known fact: his whole back is just an LSC flag with the shield in the middle, and then player names. Like he takes their autograph and then has them tattooed onto the flag.
I mean, if we have the retention like we do, though, my name's going to look like the Browns QB jersey guy.
Oh, yeah. It's like 40 different names.
Yeah.
It's going to fill up quick.
So I actually, I was kind of between like 3 names for this. And I think I had one that I was really like super set on. Yeah, I'm probably going to go with Kendall Burks. I just think I think he's going to be one of those players that is just like
good choice.
Same like vein and Speedy of just like a solid players are really going to, or fans are going to really, obviously he's going to probably play 90 minutes a match and you're going to see him and he's going to be out there, on the back line standing tall. So I had a couple others. I won't say their names yet because I want to hear who Tyler has to say, but to me, it seems like one of those, not necessarily swinging for the fences with that answer, but I think that's a solid, Kendall Burke's is going to be solid, right? Like, I'd be surprised if he's not.
Before Tyler goes, that we're doing MVP, right? And then we're doing who we think Golden Boot is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I don't
Kyle,
think Kendall Burks is going to be Golden Boot.
Yeah, no, I know.
But
save your honorable mentions for after the Golden Boot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both of your choices were in my mind. I struggled with this one because I was like, okay, Speedy's going to be an absolute anchor in the midfield, and his leadership, dude, wins everything. It's crazy. Kendall, and same kind of deal. Anchor of a back line. We've really, really wanted to make sure that this season we come in, we have a strong defense. We have people that can hold it down, and I think he's kind of like that stalwart defender that's going to be there for us and make an impact. So, that was tricky. I had lots of names. I'm actually going to go with Nick Firmino, though. I'm going to say Nick Firmino. I just got good vibes about Nick. I've heard a lot of great things about him from a variety of places. And I feel like he's kind of getting lost in all the attacking names that we have and attackers that we've signed because there are a lot of people that bring a lot of excitement, and he's kind of a more attacking-minded player. I just think that he's going to end up being one of those cornerstones of our starting 11 that we're going to feel better when he's out there on the field. Nick Firmino for me.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice. I will reveal whether or not he was on my honorable mention list following the Golden Boot. Stay tuned.
Well, I did that because
on the next episode.
Yeah, I say that because Nick Firmino is my choice for the Golden Boot. That's why I said it.
Okay.
He was my other. There were 2 others, but it was Firmino and Sophie were my 2 that I was kicking over between, and then Kendall. So those were the 3. But
yeah,
we have to go back and see. Yeah, figure out how we did these last year, and if they were even remotely close. But or not. Like I said,
not. Yeah,
who cares?
I mean, did anybody predict anything right for last year? I'd love to see the one person who was like, here's at least a 60% correct prediction before the season started.
Yeah. I mean, I've probably said,
You said ninth.
Ates. I think I said Ates was going to be good at soccer. He was. I said Nico's going to be fast. Guess what?
He is.
Check it.
Like,
Is.
you were right. You were right.
I
should have never doubted you.
know.
Yeah.
But,
all right, let's do Golden Boot. Dillon already spoiled his.
Yeah,
Nick
I
Firmino.
had Firmino. I think, like you said, he's going to get a lot of the second chances. I feel.
Yeah.
He's going to be responsible for a lot of the attacks. I think he's going to be a big goal contributor, whether it's assist or goals themselves. But I think he's going to end up snagging a lot of his own. I just think he's really, really potent. He's a really potent attacking player. So I think we're going to be seeing his name a lot this season.
Kyle, who's your Golden Boot?
This one was tough. I actually did kick around the idea with Firmino, pun intended, I guess. It hasn't been necessarily the most prolific goal scorer, but I think is going to be in that role to like make that the next part of his game. To Dillon's point, I think he'll be in and around a lot of the goals that are scored, directly or indirectly. I also could see this as a team that like maybe doesn't even have like a double-digit goal scorer and just gets contributions from here and there. And like I'd be surprised if there's one, like Ates ended up being in the first season of the club, like just overwhelmingly, the club's Golden Boot. So it also kind of depends on some of the health issues, right? But anyway, I was just going to go with Corey Burke only because I do think eventually it's someone that's going to be settled into the starting lineup. And if not starting, is going to be one of the first subs off the bench in that striker position. Has only reached double-digit goals in one season in his career, but I think has obviously played at a very high level throughout his career, mostly in the MLS, mostly with Philadelphia, has won a couple trophies. And I think it's just going to be one of those, not going to be on the pitch for 90 minutes, but is going to make his impact felt when he is on the pitch. And so I went with Burke. I had no idea. Like I wouldn't put any money on really any of these players because, it could very well be 3 or 4 or 5 other names. So, Tyler, who do you think?
There are a lot of choices. That's for sure. Burke was one of the ones that was floating around in my head. Just signing him felt like a game changer as far as, thinking about a number 9. But I have a sneaking suspicion that Elliot Goldthorpe is going to bag heck of goals this season. He had a double-digit goal scoring season last season, and he's already made his presence felt in our preseason, scoring some goals. Gut tells me that he's going to be involved a lot in getting the ball in the back of the net. And I don't know. There's a few others that I really could see. It was super, super tough. Just thinking about all the people that we could switch into those positions and that we've seen show up in the updates throughout the preseason saying, hey, such and such scored. Now this person scored. But yeah, Goldthorpe kind of caught my eye. I don't know. The vibes are right. And I think he's somebody that we're going to really end up relying on to get some goal production. And I think he'll get a decent amount of assists too, just based on how he's used, how he's deployed his skill set. I wouldn't be surprised, if Corey Burke ends up being Golden Boot winner, like you predict, if Elliott's not the one feeding him pretty often. So, in any case, he's going to be involved in a lot of goals, even if he's not the one scoring them. But I think he's still going to impress us with that regard. So we'll see. That's mine. I don't know. We'll see if we're all correct or not. I just think, I don't know. It feels like a really good, complete team. And, that I feel this episode, we've all been like, that could be this guy. Maybe it's this guy. And a lot of that's because so much has been behind closed doors. Not getting trapped in the hype. I will say, I think that the team construction feels very different from last year. Last year was just very like big name signed paper. And this year I feel like maybe there's a little bit more of like, hey, we need a couple people that we can really rely on here and here. And then we're also going to get some people that are going to kind of develop to eventually get into those roles. That some people we've seen go off on loan, or maybe we assume might go on loan, that are newer players that are younger. So I'm very interested to see how all that plays out once it really kind of gets ramped up and we're a few games into the season. But I'd say overall, I've got really good feelings about what's going to happen on the field for us. I don't know. We got good, bad vibes overall, or middle, medium. Thumbs up, thumb
Medium.
sideways, thumb down, medium. You're a thumb sideways dude.
Trending
Yeah, I
up.
would say like slightly askew.
What is that? Like a 35 degree? I don't know. I don't know my angles. Whatever. So okay. So like slight elevation to the thumbs up for Dillon. I'm gonna give it a full thumbs up. I feel like it's okay. I feel like we're good. I feel ready to see what we can do. I'm ready to be hurt again, or not at all. Preferably not at all. No more pain, please. I have enough soccer pain in my life. All right, cool. So, season's coming up. For real. March 8th, at home. We got Chick-fil-A truck. Gonna
They had
be
it
there.
at the Super League game. I got some.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They had
Nice.
cookies too.
Nice.
They didn't tell you about that. They got cookies.
Oh, I thought you meant like as in it was like a secret menu item, and they were like, "You're
No.
Dillon from CKL. Here's a cookie." That'd be cool. Dang, again, no perks.
You can say my name. I just think they might look at you like you're crazy.
I'm like, don't you know who he is? And they'll be like, no, who is he? And I'll be like, Kyle Piercy.
Then you'll be arrested on site
Oh, true. Yeah.
for the whole
that's a good point.
MLS thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, you're the MLS guy.
Yeah.
And I'll be chasing Dillon, calling him a shill and pandering to them.
I love Apple TV. It's the best.
I have Apple symbol tattoo.
No,
No,
man, you're giving me so many tattoos.
you got
this
lots of
episode.
tattoos. That's why
I
you're wearing
don't
the
even
long
have any.
sleeve cardigan thing, dude. You got all the tattoos you're trying to hide. It's a recent development. But no,
We
March
should do a
8th
tattoo bet.
game. Oh,
Don't threaten me.
what?
Don't you threaten me with a good time.
I know like, you said that. You said that way too excited. You're like, don't threaten me to do something I wanted to do anyway, Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just tattoo
Just
3
think of a
bald
good one.
dudes. Yeah. Well, March 8th, I'm ready to be there. We're good. I'm not getting a tattoo of something weird that you all decide, because that sounds like a poor life decision. It'll be like a tattoo of our predictions, the wrong ones,
Yeah.
and something, or a prediction of like the Vermont Green post. It'll be their Instagram post of the game from last year, and you just have to get the whole thing tattooed on your body. Immortalize it forever. Oh gosh, no, that's bad. That's somebody's gonna do that somewhere. Somebody's gonna make that a bet, and some poor soul's gonna have to do that and just walk around. Yeah, I just brought that into the world.
Yeah, don't put it out into the ether.
It's too late. We're done for. Yeah. So March 8th, everybody get out there. We got to support the guys in the first match back. Brand new look team. If you didn't get a chance to go to the Pittsburgh game, got to scope this one out and see what's up. A lot of opportunities for us to watch them too. There's the Fox 56 deal, so some games are going to be televised through that. There's the national broadcast. Ideally, for any of the games that are broadcast at home, it would be pretty amazing if we could have those stands full and or loud. I know like it doesn't do us any favors that the camera is always showing the away stands that nobody sits in versus any of the other stands that everybody else sits in. But if we can get those filled with people, it'd be great. I mean, this time of year, they're not that bad, especially when the sun goes down. Like once the sun's out of your eyes, they're actually really good seats. I was very surprised when I sat there. But keep watching for like ticket deals too. I feel like every time I turn around, there's some brand new ticket deal. They're like, do you have a cat? Post a picture of your cat and you got a free ticket to the game. Which I love to see that from the club. I love to see that they're doing anything and everything to get tickets into people's hands, discount them, give them away, all the good stuff. So keep watching out for those. Bring people out. Bring your cat out. I'm just kidding. There's not a cat day. There's the dog day.
There is a dog day though.
There's
I'm
a
so
dog
Is
so
there?
pumped. Yes,
There is. Cats are too volatile.
I
We'll
think
just
it's
have a
May
bunch of them running on the
15th.
field. Is that when it
Yeah.
is?
I
Oh,
think
that's.
so.
I
that's
hope
not
they
too far
play
away.
the Ring doorbell noise over the loudspeakers. I think
Yes.
the Milwaukee Brewers did that at their Bark at the Park game. It was fantastic move. Just
You know,
all the dogs start barking.
people should get a free ticket if they dress like a mail carrier to the game.
That'd be hilarious.
You just keep caking it on. We'll just kind of put layers to this whole theme night.
We crossed the
All
90-minute mark, so the dog stereotypes are nobody's safe at this point.
Nobody. We got them now. All right. Any final thoughts, guys? Now that I made my plug for people coming to games, hang out with us, sit with the Railbirds, listen to Dillon scream,
Yeah.
his guttural screams.
Yeah.
Get off the ground! That wasn't even a foul. I love it. It's the
Well,
best.
it's like Dillon is like here right now. I can
He
just
is.
like heard him.
It's the 40 experience.
Whoa.
Everybody watching and listening, they feel his essence now.
Yeah.
I was there was only like one play during the preseason game that like got close enough for us to like, give banter. And I was like, even, I gotta get in form for yelling, this is
Yeah.
preseason for fans as well,
For everybody. Yep.
Yeah.
Warming up. All right. Well, everybody come out to the game. We didn't focus on the Super League for this one, but check those games out too. There's going to be lots of weekends with lots of soccer. Support all the teams any way you can. And you know the deal. Come on, you Greens.